guys, what's up? I'm Nikhil, your TubePad instructor, and in this After Effects tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to create a clean and professional looking corporate lower third in After Effects. So without any further ado, let's get straight into the tutorial and get started. Alright, so here we are in After Effects, and here I have a logo, a sample logo that I got from Freepik. So you can use any logo that you want. You can use your own company logo as well. So in this tutorial, I'll be using this logo. So let's start by creating a new composition, and let's rename this comp to main, as this is going to be our main comp. The resolution, I'm going to go with 1920 by 1080. Let's make this 30 FPS. 10 seconds should be good, and hit OK. So right at the bat, I'm going to start by creating a new solid. So hit Ctrl Y on the keyboard to create a new solid, and let's rename this to E3D for element 3D layer, and hit OK. And let's go ahead and add element 3D effect to this. Then let's go into the scene setup, and into the scene setup, I'm going to create a cube just like that. And let's go into the cube material, that is the default material, and into the materials or textures diffuse section, I'm going to click right over here, and then I'm going to load a texture. So you need to locate your texture, your logo actually, and use it as a texture. So I'm going to just copy paste my path for the logo that I have and hit open. There we have it. You can see just like that we have our logo placed directly onto the cube, and that is all we need for this scene. So let's hit OK, and there we have it. Let's create a new camera, and let's keep it at 50 millimeters. Looks good. Hit OK, and let's start animating our cube. Also, I'm gonna turn on the title action save just to be a bit more precise while doing the cubic animation. So at the very beginning, I'm going to go into group 1, particle replicator and particle look. Just click on this icon so you can see all the control panels. And for the position, I'm going to set it right over here, just like so. And I'm going to first animate the scale property of the cube. So for the scale property, I'm going to go right over here where it says particle size XYZ. Click on this icon to drop down the X, Y, and Z size. Create a keyframe, and then select the layer and hit U. Drag those keyframes at 1 second, just like that. And right over here, I'm just going to set them down to 0, just like so. So we have this basic animation that you can see, pretty simple. So let's select all the keyframes, hit F9 to ease those keyframes, and let's go into the graph editor. Now if your graph editor doesn't look like this, make sure to right click and make sure you're working in the edit speed graph and not in the edit value graph. Select this point and drag this handle holding shift just like that to the left side. So we get this kind of peak. So we have a really nice and interesting animation, as you can see, looking pretty good. Now let's give some position and rotation animation as well. So let's create a keyframe on the position XY and the rotation as well. So let's click on this icon and rotate it in the Y rotation. Let's select the layer actually and hit U so we can see both the keyframes. Go to, let's say, 2 seconds and 10 frames maybe, and drag the position just like that to the left. There we go. And then I'm going to rotate it at 360 degrees. That is one complete rotation. So we have something like this. Pretty simple and easy. Select the keyframes and hit F9 to ease those keyframes, and let's go into the graph editor again. And this time I'm going to put the time indicator to the center and create kind of a peak by dragging the handles just like that into the center. So we have a bit more interesting animation, as you can see. Looks really interesting. And that is all for the cubic animation. As you can see, it's looking really nice. Now let's go ahead and add our text to the scene. So right over here, I'm going to go at 1 second. Select the rectangle tool and create a shape. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, make some room right over here. And drag this just like so. So we have something like that. So it's going to look something like this. Also, I'm going to pretty quickly just align this in the center so we have a better idea of the scene. Okay, this is looking pretty good. Let's go into rectangle properties and I'm just bring down the size a little bit, just maybe something like so. Let's set this to 880 and set the height to maybe 100, or maybe I'll just set this to a bit bigger, maybe 110 or something, or let's go with 125. Yeah, this looks better. Also, I'm going to position this down a bit just to make sure to align it with the cube. Just like that. So now we have something like that, which is not looking that good. So let's bring down the shape layer one below our element 3D layer. So the cube is on the top of the shape layer. So we have something like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the shape layer, hit Control Shift C to pre-compose this, and let's rename this to top and hit OK. And then really quickly I'm going to create a mask for our shape. So I'm going to go maybe at 1 second and create a mask just like so. Okay. Let's click on the mask one, create a keyframe on the mask path, go a few frames forward, maybe let's say 20 frames, hit V and select the points and drag them just like so. So now we have this really simple animation which is not looking good. So I'm going to go right over here as well, select this and try to match the timing of the cube animation just like so. So I'm going to go right over here, drag it, go right over here, drag the points just like so, right over here, and drag this all the way out. So now we have something like this. Pretty nice. So let's go into the top layer, select the shape layer actually, and I'm gonna hit Control C to copy it and hit Control V to paste the shape layer right over here. Let's bring this down just like that. Hit U 2 times to see the size of the shape, and I'm going to bring this down to 100. Let's place it somewhere around there, maybe a bit more to I guess 85. Yep, that is looking much better. So something like that. And then let's pre-compose this as well. So hit Control Shift C and let's call this bottom. Hit OK. Now let's go into the top and the bottom compositions. So let's go right over here and align this in the center just like that. Let's go into the bottom comp and let's align this in the center just like so. And if you don't see this align tab, you can go into Windows and just click on this align tab section. So now it's a bit misplaced right over here. So what I'm going to pretty quickly just select the top composition, hold shift and drag it to the top. Select the bottom one, hold shift and drag it to the bottom just like that. So now we have the simple animation. And for the bottom one, what I'm going to do is let's go into the bottom composition and animate this. So I'm going to drag the anchor point to the left. So I'm just going to snap it right over here. Hit S to bring down the scale properties. And let's go to the very beginning. And let's bring down the scale just like that to 0. Create a keyframe, go to 1 second and 15 frames maybe, and let's bring this up to 100. So we have a basic animation just like that. Select the keyframes, hit F9, go to graph editor and drag this handle to the left, holding shift and control. So now we have a little bit more interesting animation. So now it's still not looking the way we want it to look. So what I'm going to do is let's go to right over here and drag the bottom comp just like that, or maybe let's keep it at 1 second. So maybe 1 second and 10 frames. Okay, that is what I'm going for. And then what I'm going to do is let's go right over here, select the bottom composition and select the rectangle tool and create a mask just like that. Go into the mask properties, create a keyframe on the mask path, go a few frames forward and drag this point just like we did before. A few frames forward, drag this point. Make sure to hold shift while dragging the point just to be a bit more precise. And there we have it. So now we have this really interesting animation. Pretty good. Now let's go ahead and color the composition, and for the coloring I'm just going to use the logo as a reference, so what I can do is let's go into top one, drag in the logo just to pick up the colors, and select the layer, add a gradient ramp to this, bring the points just like so. For this one I'm going to go with a lighter shade of red, and for this one I'm going to go with a darker shade just like that. So we have this really nice gradient look on our box or shape, you can see. Let's delete the logo because we got the colors, and I'm just gonna copy the gradient. So hit Control C to copy it, go into the bottom composition and duplicate this layer. So hit Control D. Let's drag the first layer a few frames forward just like that, and on the bottom layer I'm gonna hit Control V to paste the gradient. So now we have something like this. Pretty nice. So let's go into main comp and let's see our complete animation. So yep, as you can see, it's looking really nice. And for the logo, it's not matching with our shape layer. So what I can do is go into Element 3D, go into the render settings, and in the physical environment I'm going to increase the exposure just like so. You can also play around with the gamma if you want to, something like that. And yep, this is looking very nice. I think maybe I'll bring down the exposure down to 2, or maybe a bit more, something like that. So yep, this is actually looking very nice. Now let's go ahead and add our text to the compositions. So let's select the text tool and type in a text. Now you can of course type in anything that you want. I'm just gonna type in just type in www.com. Make this caps. Let's center this up just like that. Also I'm going to change the font size to 50, bring down the spacing, and also make this bold. Maybe I'll increase the spacing a bit just like that. Now let's go into the text properties and let's add a position. Bring down the position of the text just right over here. Let's go at the very beginning and let's go into the range selector and go into the advanced properties. And then I'm going to change the shape to ramp up and increase the easy high all the way up to 100. And for the easy low, I'm going to set this to somewhere around 75. And I'm going to animate the offset of our text to get this really nice animation. So at the very beginning, let's create a keyframe on the offset and go to 1 second and 15 frames, and let's bring this up to 100. So now we have this really nice looking text animation, which looks pretty interesting. And then what I can do is let's select the text layer and create a mask just like so. So we have this really nice animation. Same thing I'm going to do for the bottom composition. So let's hit Control C to copy the text and paste it by hitting Control V on the keyboard. Also for the text color, I'm going to change the color to something like a really nice color that matches up with our logo. And also bring down the text size to 35. And let's type in something like a tagline. It can be any tagline that you want. So I'm going to type in something like stay raw, stay creative. And let's change this to something like medium. Okay, that is looking pretty good. Or maybe I'll just make this semi-bold and increase the spacing a bit more. So now we have something like that. And for the mask, I'm just going to bring these 2 points a bit onto the upper side just like that. So we have this really nice text animation as well. I'm going to display this by 10 frames just like so. So we have something like this. Pretty nice. Now let's go into the main comp and let's see what we have. So yep, as you can see, this is looking very nice. Now for the first text, I want this to appear a bit later on. So what I can do is I can go into top comp and displace the text by maybe 1 second and 15 frames, and that should work. Let's see. Yep, that is looking pretty good. Let's keep it at 1 second. Yep, this is actually looking very nice, as you can see. And there we have our lower third. Now what I can do is I can select all the compositions and hit Control Shift C, and let's call this final animation. Hit OK, and then I can just hit S and scale this down a little bit and place it in the position that I want. So I can place it somewhere around there. And there we have a really nice looking lower third. Now one more cool accent that I would like to add to this lower third is some really nice looking lines that will add a bit more flavor to the complete animation. So let's go to maybe right over here and let's select the pen tool. Let's set the stroke to 5 pixels, and we don't need the fill, so I'm going to set this to none. Hit OK, and then I'm just going to create a line. So let's make some space and let's create a line by holding Shift, just like so. And then I'm just going to move this using arrow keys to the top a little bit, just like that. Alright, so let's rename this to line. And let's add a trim part to this, so you can animate the stroke. So you can just animate the stroke just like that. So what I'm going to do is let's go at the very beginning and let's bring this down to 0. Create a keyframe, go a few frames forward, maybe 20 frames. Set this to 100. Create a keyframe on the start property, go a few frames forward and set this to 100. Then I'm going to select these 2 keyframes and drag them a bit, just like that. And there we have something like this really nice looking stroke animation. Maybe I'll just put it just somewhere around there. Select the keyframes, hit F9, go to graph editor, and then I'm gonna select these 2 keyframes and drag it just like so. So we have a bit more interesting animation, as you can see. And then what I can do is let's find the proper place for the timing of the animation. So I'm going to place it somewhere around there. Yep, this is looking very nice. And then I can just hit Control D to duplicate it and hold Shift and drag it down just like that. Maybe I can also displace it a bit. Yep, there we have our complete lower third. So as you can see, it's looking really nice. And now to reverse the animation, what you need to do is, let's say I'll go to maybe 4 seconds, hold Alt and close bracket to crop the composition and hit Control D to duplicate it. Right click, go to time and time reverse layer, hold Shift and drag this composition unless it snaps to the time indicator. And there you have our reverse animation. Really simple and easy. Now you can add a background of your a video or an image that you want to use, and just drag it in behind the lower third. So if I just double click a corporate video, let's say, drag it below our lower third, and let's find a good spot somewhere around there. And as you can see, our lower third is getting a bit low, so I'll just drag this right over here. So now let's see our complete animation. So as you can see, it's looking really nice. Maybe I'll need to drag it a bit to the left, just like so. And there we have our really nice and professional looking corporate lower third. So that is a wrap for today, guys. I hope this video was helpful, and I will see you in my next video. Till then, take care and thank you so much for watching, guys.